So this video is for those of you who want to put in the work to develop the identity of the person who's already hit your goal and really do the mindset work that it takes to be successful. And so this weekend, I want you to work through the worksheet, but I really want you to spend time thinking about how life will be different when you have hit your goal. How would you behave differently if you were a person who could run a 10K or do however many pull-ups you want to do, or if you had the body that you wanted? What would you do each day if you were a person who knew exactly what their priorities were and when they were going to get them done? And how would you act if you were a person with a neat, organized house or garage or basement? And if you're completing like a one-time project, like a basement remodel or remodeling one of the rooms in your house, I want you to think about every single step that you have to take to make that project happen, and really visualize hitting your goal. I want you also to think about how you will feel when you hit your goal. We tend to just think of feelings as happy and sad, but we have a huge range of emotions. You know, when you hit your goal, will you feel healthy, disciplined, accomplished, proud, organized, relaxed, calm maybe, focused, disciplined and organized? And they're some of my favorite emotions to feel. So when you hit your goal, how will you feel? Really think about that. And how is life going to be different when you hit your goal? A big thing is when you hit your goal, you'll spend less time, you'll waste less time, because you won't be thinking about how you look or feel or what you should eat or what you shouldn't eat, and you won't waste time procrastinating. Should I do this? Should I do that? Trying to decide what to do. The other thing is you'll feel less guilt. You won't be thinking, I shouldn't have eaten that, I should have worked out harder, I should have picked up the house, I should have cleaned up that area. You waste less time and you feel less guilty when you hit your goal. So why do you actually need to spend time imagining how you will hit your goal, how you'll feel, and how life will be different? The reason is because the more you imagine the steps that you're going to take to hit your goal, how life will be better, how you'll behave differently, how you'll feel differently, it makes it much easier for your mind to imagine taking the action that you need to take to hit your goal. And once you've imagined it, the next step of actually taking that action is much easier. So how do you make sure that you visualize setting your goal and achieving your goal? How do you make sure that you do that as often as possible? Very easy. From now on, when you're making your plan every day, I want you to write down your goal. Every single day, you're going to write it down somewhere. Even if your plan is just, 3 priorities written on a Post-it note, at the top of that Post-it note, I want you to write what your goal is. I also want you to write your goal down and post it in as many places as possible. If you work in an office or if you have a desk, post your goal at your desk. I want it stuck on the fridge. I want it stuck on the mirror in your bathroom. Maybe you could stick it even on a Post-it note in your steering wheel. I want your goal posted everywhere, because the more times you look at that goal, the more you're going to think about it and visualize it. And the more you think about it and visualize it, the easier it is to hit your goal. And wherever possible throughout the day, I want you to spend a few minutes imagining what hitting your goal will be like. When I walk my dog, I spend a couple of minutes imagining being thinner. When I'm sitting in the car, instead of turning the radio on straight away, I spend a few minutes imagining hitting my goal. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, because you create a reinforcing cycle. If you think about your goal a lot, it's easier to act like a person who is achieving their goal, which creates results. And when you see results, you think about your goal more often, and then you start behaving like a person who's hit their goal, and you get better results. And so the cycle continues and reinforces until you actually hit your goal. I will say though, if your goal builds on a strength, visualization is much easier, because when you can already run a 5K, it's much easier to imagine running further or faster than if you've maybe never walked more than a quarter of a mile without getting out of breath. If your basement or garage was once clean and organized, then but life maybe got a little bit crazy in the last few weeks, you can imagine tidying up your garage and having it neat and tidy, because it used to be like that. But if you've always been a person who's lived with clutter and maybe a little bit of chaos, it's very hard to imagine being the kind of person who lives in an organized house. And I'll be honest, I really struggle to imagine myself 15 pounds lighter, because I've always been 10 to 15 pounds heavier than I would like. So for me to hit my goal, it takes a lot of vision and making lots of decisions, as if I was a thin person. So what if that's you? What if it feels nearly impossible to imagine, planning your day and sticking to that plan, or living in a clean, organized house? I want to introduce you to a concept that I love, and it is called ladder thoughts. I want you to imagine a ladder leaning against the wall, and at the top of that ladder is your goal, but you can't quite imagine getting there. So you have what they call ladder thoughts to get you to your goal. So an example of a ladder thought is, I'm not sure I can lose 15 pounds, but I know I can lose £1 a week. I'm not sure if I can organize the whole of my garage, but I know that I can sort out, this shelf here. I don't know if I can run a 10K, but I know that I could run half a mile more each run that I do. I don't know if I can keep my house picked up, but I know I can spend 15 minutes every day while I'm cooking dinner, picking up the kitchen. And I don't know if I can actually plan my whole day, but I know I can write my top 3 tasks down on a post-it note when I'm drinking coffee in the morning. Those thoughts are an example of like a baby step, or on that ladder that will get you to your eventual goal. Because the more you think that first little thought that maybe I can do this, maybe I can hit my goal, it becomes easier, and so then you can think of something that's a little bit more challenging. So an example of like a step 2 ladder thought would be, I know I can lose £1 a week, so maybe in a couple of months I could lose £10. I managed to clean up that shelf in the garage and it's still neat and tidy. Maybe I could clean up the whole of this side of the garage. Wow, I keep completing my top 3 priorities every day. Maybe I can plan to do 5 things a day instead of just 3. And eventually you're going to get to the point where you've changed your thoughts and you've changed your mindset so much that you can actually imagine hitting your goal. And there are always going to be some goals that are easier to hit. Work goals, organizational goals, family goals, they're all easy for me to hit. But any goal around my weight is something that I really struggle with, because I have to fundamentally change how I see myself. I've always seen myself as strong and healthy, so working out is pretty easy. I've always seen myself as confident and organized and efficient, which is why hitting like organizational goals or business goals are easy. But I've never thought of myself as thin. So actually imagining being thin and hitting that goal takes an awful lot more ladder thoughts. So this weekend, I want you to be able to start thinking, if you can't actually really imagine hitting your goal, think about imagining some small step on the way to hitting that goal. Think about something that does feel achievable, something that does feel doable, and keep thinking that thought, and then you can progress as the weeks go by. Because what you'll learn is, when you understand the concept that you have to change your identity to be able to hit your goal, you have to think like a thin person to lose weight. You have to think like an organized person to tidy up your house. You have to think like a person who enjoys planning to be able to plan and schedule your day. You understand you have to take those steps to change your mindset, to change your identity. And then whenever you see someone who hasn't hit their goal, you realize they just can't visualize actually being the person who has hit their goal. So if that is all a little bit too much mindset stuff, then just, feel free to just click into the next video, where I just have some very simple steps about how you can focus on the actions needed to hit your goal without having to do the mindset part. But if you can really focus on the mindset, visualize achieving your goal, visualize being a person who's hit your goal and all the steps that you have to take, it really is life-changing work.